What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Legally Blind. I hope you are all doing okay in these strange, crazy COVID-19 times, staying safe and not losing your minds too much, being stuck at home. I am self-isolating here in Cairo, just me and my dog, working from home and filling up the rest of my time with things I love to do, like exercising and making videos and playing music, etc. Today's video is about 6 things you should not say to a blind or visually impaired person. Now, some of these things are just annoying or irritating, while others can actually be really insensitive or offensive and can make someone feel really bad. I have personally heard everything on this list at some point or another in my life, so let's get right into it. Number 6. This is actually something that can be really wonderful to hear if said at the appropriate time, but can also be really devastating if said at the wrong time. And that is, "You are so inspiring." People usually say this as a compliment to the blind or visually impaired person because they are impressed by how they manage to thrive despite their disability, and it can be really supportive and a nice thing to hear. However, you have to be careful when you say it. For example, if the blind or visually impaired person happens to be struggling with their blindness at that moment and they're trying to talk to you about it, at that moment in time, they do not feel strong, they do not feel inspiring, and they are just trying to connect. If you respond by saying, "You inspire me so much," it can feel like they're not being heard, or that you are uncomfortable with the vulnerability of the situation and are trying to avoid it. It can make someone feel even more alone and disconnected if you do that. But hey, if the person is happy and doing all right and doing great work, absolutely tell them how much they inspire you. That can be nice. Number 5. This is something that falls in the category of things that are annoying or irritating, and that is something like,
"Why are you sitting so close to the TV? Why are you holding that book so close to your face? You're gonna damage your eyes."
Oh, I've heard this a lot from well-meaning family and friends and even strangers throughout my life. And the reason why it is annoying is that I am not sitting so close to the TV or touching the book with my nose because I like to do that. I have to do that. Otherwise, I can't see anything. It is also intrusive. Basically, it's none of your business. And it can make someone feel self-conscious about how they look when they're doing certain things. And it just gets really annoying if you keep hearing it all the time in your life. Number 4. This one also falls in the category of annoying things, and that is saying something like, "Why don't you just do LASIK eye surgery?" Or, "Why don't you get new glasses?" This is probably the one thing on this list that I still hear very often, and people usually say it when they see me struggling to read something, or taking off my glasses to look at my phone up close or something like that. And it is just an automatic suggestion that people feel like they need to make, as if none of these options ever occurred to me.
Gee, why didn't I think of that?
If any of these options could have helped me, I would have taken them. Now, to be fair, sometimes people do ask this out of a desire to understand or learn something, but most of the time it is just an automatic suggestion that people make without really thinking about it. And it can make the person feel like they have to get into the whole medical history of their condition so that this makes sense to the person. And sometimes we just don't want to do that. Number 3. Now, this one can actually be somewhat offensive, and it is saying things like, "Can you still work now that you're blind? Why don't you just get Social Security?" And the reason why this can be offensive is that it assumes that a blind or visually impaired person cannot be a valuable member of the workforce. There's an assumption of incapability there. Blind and partially sighted people are just as capable as everybody else of having really impressive CVs and contributing very valuably to society. A better question to ask would be something like, are you able to find accommodating work? Is your work environment inclusive and open-minded and accommodating? because that type of question does not make any assumptions like that, and it does a much better job at actually expressing concern for the well-being of the person. Number 2. I put this one in second place because it seems to be the most annoying and most commonly repeated thing that blind and visually impaired people hear, seemingly all over the world. I polled a few international Facebook groups for the blind before I made this video to ask them about the annoying things that people say to them sometimes, and this was the number 1 most requested thing. How many fingers am I holding up? That's okay. How many fingers am I holding up? What? How many fingers? Now, some people just make this as a joke or to tease their visually impaired friend, and if you're close enough to the person, it might be okay. But believe it or not, people who barely know the blind person also make this lame joke, and some people actually say it as if to test that the person really is blind, like they don't believe them. No, guys. Just no. Stop. Stop. If you're close enough to the person to make that joke, maybe it's okay, but maybe also stop if they don't actually like it. Number 1. Are you ready? It's about to get very serious. This is the number 1 worst thing I ever heard.
I would rather be dead than blind.
Some of you might be shocked to hear that someone actually said that to me, but it happened. And to be fair, probably the person would not have said this if they knew I was visually impaired. But still, this is a pretty insensitive thing to just blurt out in a normal social situation. It is also kind of ignorant, because it assumes that life has no value without sight, and that it is not possible for a blind person to live a full and happy life. All you have to do is look around for a few minutes, go online for a few minutes, and you'll see that happy blind people are everywhere. Also, if someone is struggling with their blindness when they hear you say this, it can make them feel a whole lot worse. And no one is trying to tell you what you should and should not feel or think. If this is how you really feel, or if this is what you really think, that you cannot handle blindness yourself, you're entitled to think that. But you should probably consider when and where and how you express that thought. I usually find it helpful to live by a certain rule. If I'm thinking of saying something that might be hurtful or mean or offensive to a group of people, whether it's someone with a disability or any kind of minority for that matter, I try to imagine that a member of that group is in the room with me, and then I think about whether or not I should say that out loud. That's it, guys. This is the end of the list. In the future, I will be making videos about things you should not do to or around a blind person, as well as videos about positive and helpful things you should say or do around a blind person. If you have enjoyed this video and you would like to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel, like and share the video, and check me out on Patreon. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and special thanks to my patrons. See you soon. Peace.